Ally, Volume 7. Today is Thursday. It's the Thursday before LSFest. I'll be there tomorrow and Saturday for sure. So I'll be doing some tuning there, probably check out a couple customers' data logs. May help them with a little bit of track tuning, but for the most part tomorrow is gonna be just go hang out with people, talk to people, just have a good time. This is probably one of the most stressful couple weeks of my years. That's just how it rolls with LSFest. Like, that's why we don't do any scheduling. We just get what we can in, always dealing with mechanical issues like what you guys seen. So hopefully today's tune will be smooth. So we have I think it's 2008 Pontiac G8 LSA on it, really clean car. So let's check it out. So I double checked the door. It's 03 of 08, so I think that technically makes this thing an 09, but 09 Pontiac G8 GT. Car looks really clean. With this being a GT, that means this one had the 6-liter L76 and not the LS3 like the GXPs had. So anyways, let's pop this hood and see what we've got underneath it. So definitely an LSA car. Instantly I'm going to notice the ZL1 lid, which is good. See the 5-inch cold air intake. So that's one of the reasons why it's here, is it's got the freshly installed 5-inch cold air intake. And if you'll notice right now, the MAF is actually unplugged. I had the installer actually do it that way the car would run. It's got a 4 Innovations fuel system on it, Mighty Mouse catch can, freshly installed DSX flex fuel sensor, and the cold air intake, flex fuel sensor, and the 4 Innovations fuel system was all done by a shop local to me. It's actually, I think, in Adams, Tennessee. It's Mikey's Custom. So if y'all need some help, message him. You can find him on Facebook or I believe Instagram. But overall, everything looks like a clean install. Looks like we have a 255 upper, stock G8 lower. Blower's actually powder coated like a nice wrinkled black, so it looks good. Everything looks clean. Got the boost reference line going to the fuel pressure regulator, so that's good. I am noticing I don't know if you guys can see that, but a little bit of residual heat exchanger fluid. So I'm gonna have to watch that and make sure we don't have an active leak. We definitely don't want that going inside the blower and have the engine ingest it. But it looks like stock size throttle body. Yeah, looks like a pretty simple car. Anyways, let's get this thing inside and get it checked out. All right guys, so first thing we're gonna do is hook up into it and double check everything. Check engine light is currently on, which, as I showed you guys, the mass airflow sensor is unplugged. So I'm expecting it to have like a P0102 mass airflow sensor code, and it's gonna have an intake temp sensor code. Again, that was done. This car, because I know who tuned it previously, that means that he properly calibrated the VE table, which means that this car will run with the MAF disconnected, no problem. So the car was actually driven here for an hour and 15 minutes yesterday with the MAF unplugged, had no issues. So make sure that those are the only codes on, because if they're not, then we may have a mechanical issue. Obviously, we've had a string of bad luck, so I want to make sure that we're not putting up anything on the dyno that's going to have a mechanical issue. I'd like for this car to get pulled back up there, us do our work, and get it out of here and get it off to LSFest. All right, so let's key on the car. Scanner's open. As always, we're gonna go up to the little blue car and wait for the interface to actually open. This, I don't know if it's MPPI 3 or if it's my laptop or what it is, but for whatever reason, my interface has been taking a whole lot longer than normal to open. But that's okay. All right, so we're gonna go to the check engine light button, that one right there. Click it, we're gonna go down to read DTCs right there. And we're gonna see that all we have right now is a P0102, so that's absolutely perfect. That's what we wanted to happen. So now I'm going to do the read file and get the file out of this thing and go over it. So the file has been read out of the car. No sense in showing you guys that again. I've showed y'all every single time, but the first thing we're gonna do is get the flex fuel activated. So step number one is going to be to get the stoic point correct. Now this car is going to have large injectors, so it's going to be scaled, and I can do a video on scaling the stoic, but best thing to do, which again, this is just part of the process, so please don't just try this without doing other things. Again, I will make that video, is I'm going to correct the stoic for flex fuel. And then because the injector size is so large, we actually double it in this application. So that handles the stoic point of that. We're going to go to flex fuel. We're going to enable it. We're going to click sensor. I'm going to go to the fuel system tab and go to diagnostics and click enable. I will make the diag delay. Let's just do, we'll do 20 seconds. And I'm going to go into the files for the check engine light, and we're going to actually add a check engine light. So we want this car to be able to throw a code if the flex fuel sensor is having issues. So we've got that handled. For right now, I'm going to leave all this stuff alone. So, and I'm going to make the default percentage 10, and I will save this file. File's been installed, so now we're going to check it out. Instant no start. Again, the MAF is disconnected, so it may take it a second. Just keep it running. Alright, car is running now, obviously. A pretty good idle. Yeah, so anytime you do a flash, if the MAF is disconnected, it takes a second to actually fail. Because this car wasn't tuned specifically for speed density. But anyways, if you look right here, ethanol fuel is 10.2%. So that is a good sign. This little bit of idle surge, we're just going to keep this thing running. Actually, no, better yet, I'm going to plug the MAF in real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, so MAF is plugged in. I went ahead on and set the car up for speed density. Let's just start a little bit better this time. Now the reason why I'm doing it this way is what we're going to do is, in order to get just an idea what this MAF curve, or what this mass airflow sensor is going to want for fueling, we can actually look at our dynamic airflow when in speed density and compare it to the mass airflow sensor, and that will give us an idea of how far off we are. And so, still dying. We'll give it a second, because again, the car drove just fine. It's just going to take it a little bit of time to kind of get figured out. So if you look right here, there's a very large percentage difference between our dynamic airflow and our mass airflow. So what I'm going to do is we'll just cut the car off. So I'm going to look just when it was somewhat having a stable idle. So 7.8 grams per second on the MAF. Dynamic airflow was 17.97. So let's just do the math on it real quick. Now I'm just showing you guys a very rough way. I have a 5-inch MAF curve sitting in my files, but I want to show y'all like an easier way of just roughing in a car real quick. So anyway, so we're gonna take that 17.97 that we see here, and we're gonna divide it by the 7.8 that we see here, and that's gonna give us 2.3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our file, and we are going to go to the mass airflow sensor calibration. We're going to enter in that difference, so it's going to over double the data inside the mass airflow sensor. And so now I'm going to take this car and I'm going to put it, let's go MAF only, and just to see how close we are. So again, if you didn't catch that, I went to airflow dynamic and then this high RPM disable. I just made 150. Reason why I chose those numbers, no reason other than the GM 525 crate motor calibrations have their numbers set up like that. So I figured GM does it, why can't I? So anyways, now I'm going to engine diag. We're just going to set this to 14,500 hertz. We'll set this to 1126. I think that's what it was from factory. It was. That's why it went blue. Go to DTCs. I'm going to make this MIL on second error again, and make sure those are checked back. We're going to save that file, and now I'm going to send this in. And I'm just gonna flash just the ECU. All right, so loaded those changes to the MAF into the car, and now you'll see I've started it up, got a pretty steady idle. You'll see our numbers are somewhat close to matching. So again, we're on MAF only right now. So what we're gonna do, I'm looking short-term fuel trims, we're negative 22%. So I will, we can pull a little bit of fuel off of that. So again, this is not my normal way of calibrating something like this, but this is probably the easiest way for you guys to learn. So let's stop this log right now. I'm gonna shut the car off. And let's go to our MAF curve. So it's under airflow general, MAF calibration. And because we're 22% off, let's do times 0.78, multiply, and we'll flash this one in. And this should get our mass airflow sensor frequency in the ballpark. So far everything looks okay. I'm actually kind of surprised the MAF doesn't look super turbulent, which is a very, very good sign. That means we may be able to actually use this intake. So I don't know which brand this is. It looks a little bit generic, but I guess it's just the way they designed it. But I'm gonna find out what brand this is, because if this mass airflow sensor works out good, then I'll recommend this to other customers when they have questions about that. So anyways, gonna load this file in and I'll be right back with you. File's loaded in. Let's start the car and see how it acts now. All right, so these numbers are starting to get a little bit farther apart. So that means the VE has changed. Could be this intake, could just be the previous fuel system, but so we're gonna have to work on the VE a little bit also. Looks like short-term fuel trims are much closer. So I'm gonna look at this and we'll see. I'll show you guys one more time, and then what I'll do is I'll stop the video for the MAF tuning part of it, and until we get up onto the dyno, and I'll kind of show you how to do like an EQ error table on that. So yeah, we're gonna say this, we're roughly another, we'll just call 11%. So I'll stop the log. Now also keep in mind too that, like I told you guys on the Chevy SS video, that there are gonna be short-term fuel trim differences whenever you start the vehicle up after a reflash. Most of the time they go rich. I have seen them go lean. But anyway, so we're gonna just have this kind of in the ballpark, and I'm gonna drive this car over to the fuel station to get ethanol, because we're gonna be tuning this thing on E85 today. And so I'm gonna drive the car over to get E85, and that will kind of give me a quick test drive into seeing how the trans feels, how everything feels. I'm assuming it's gonna feel great, but if it doesn't, then we'll just kind of keep working through. But so far, nice car. I like this thing. So that file's loaded in, so let's start the car again. Now, every time I do this, the car just gets a little bit better and better every single time. All right, so you'll see fuel trims, we're starting to get pretty close on them. That's gonna allow the car to be essentially drivable, which is what we want. So again, this car, I'm gonna do it a little bit different than normal. I'm going to drive this car to the fuel station. That way I can get an idea how drivability is and know what I do and don't need to change. You don't want to reinvent the wheel when you're tuning. Again, this car was actually tuned by a very good tuner, so I'm not gonna have to make as many changes as I would with when I have to go behind tuners with less experience. So anyways, we're gonna get out on the street and get this car to the fuel station. All right, so I'm gonna take you guys with me as I drive this thing to the fuel station, so that we can kind of get an idea of what I can see when I'm data logging these things on the street. Now, I don't know how good this webcam is going to do in this car as I'm driving. So fuel station is, I don't know, it's probably, hang on, I got to figure out this AC. This car has like some really trick touchscreen, something or other. Just want AC to work. Y'all know me and my AC. All right, we got AC now. Let me keep this fan down a little bit so that way y'all can still hear me. But anyway, so fuel station's probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 miles away. So take this car over there, and again, like this, so this car is an LSA 6L80 car. I think it's got a converter. I got to figure out which camshaft and stuff it has. I haven't gone through all the details yet. Again, what I'm showing you guys is more like my preliminary kind of stuff in a simplified manner, so that way you can understand what I'm looking at. Again, I mean, some of you guys may have been tuning for a long time and may actually understand the more technical side of things, and so I may get a little bit deeper and deeper into the technical side of things as I do these videos. But for right now, I'm just going to assume that a lot of you guys that are watching haven't tuned a car before, or maybe you've only tuned maybe 1 or 2 and you kind of want to get an idea of what we're seeing. So anyway, so we're driving right now. Trans feels good. Low fuel lights definitely on. We are most definitely below 1/8 of a tank. Again, it's got a brand new fuel system. So got enough fuel to get there and back. This car, I'm not going to have it on the dyno on pump gas. Honestly, there's no need to. Again, it was tuned by one of the best in the business before on pump gas. The only thing that has changed is the intake fuel system, and the DSX Flex fuel sensor has been added. So I will just double check and make sure that the 93 stuff looks okay. But the majority of my tuning today is going to be on ethanol. So this car, that should open up another, I don't know, probably 70 to 80 horsepower over what it was before. Again, we can't really compare apples to apples. So if it was back on James's dyno, James could give him a better idea as to how much power he picked up with these upgrades. But again, I'm assuming it's just timing. We're LSFest, so he was able to get the car to me easier, I guess is what's going on. So, but I don't know how much boost this car is going to make. I'm going to assume it's probably in like the 9-pound range. So this car, like I said, it should get up in the, I'd like to see it up in the 600s on that dyno. Maybe more like a 570 or 580 on that dyno. I think the customer's really wanting like a roughly 650 on a Dynojet, or like James actually has a, I believe his is Dyno Dynamics is what he's using right now. But anyways, he has this Brand X calculator that will kind of give you Dynojet numbers as well. So both of our dynos, like when his is turned off of Brand X and mine is just running as normal, they both spit out some super low dyno numbers. Again, dyno numbers, there is no industry standard on dyno numbers. So when you're on a chassis dyno, just understand that you can't really compare one dyno to another. If you're the type where you just want to read the highest number, just check out some videos. You'll see these guys where the tuners are claiming these big power numbers. More than likely, that's a really happy dyno. So we don't race dynos here. You know, we race cars and trap speeds. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to keep driving, and I'll get back with you guys shortly. So ethanol pumps are like diesel pumps. They're always blocked. It took me forever to get into this thing. But anyway, so you can see, filling her up. I think we need to come out with your boyfriend blocks the ethanol pump. How about that? I think we need to drop that shirt. All right, so just starting back up the car. You will be able to actually see the ethanol content change live. Yeah, just like that. So this car is a return style fuel system. So right now the car, this is one of those parameters that I'll have to show you guys. We need the car to actually learn its ethanol content. So right now the car is going to be extremely rich. So I'm gonna have to keep it running for a second. But eventually, once I get the flex fuel stuff dialed in, I will actually set up a parameter to where the car will actually wait on changing the ethanol content of the engine to give it enough time to actually ingest some of the gasoline that was in the rails. And that way it doesn't immediately try to fire up and have fuel trims just way off. Because right now, I mean, the car thought it was immediately on ethanol in it, and it wasn't just yet. It was going to take it a second to get all the rest of that pump gas out of the rails. So anyways, you'll see we're already running a ton better. It's still pulling a bunch of fuel, but again, this is all little stuff that I'm going to correct. I just wanted you guys to kind of have a realistic idea of kind of how this stuff works, and just basic processes of it. Ethanol looks like it's stabilizing right around 67%. This actually brings up a good topic for me to explain. Guys, ethanol content, really don't worry about it. Unless you're at a crazy power level to the point where you need to be on a race ethanol, like a C85 or a Ignite E90, pump ethanol is completely fine. And realistically, anything above 40% ethanol is going to have the same power handling capability or detonation resistance as anything else. So this car being at 66.7% today, we're going to see 100% of the power that the car's capable of. I mean, with no other changes. So that's why you'll see a lot of the LT guys getting away with doing like an E40 or E47 tune, you know, whatever they're trying to run, because that 40% above has just some killer, you know, power potential. So, but anyway, so we're cruising back to the shop. Fuel trims are starting to stabilize. So again, the MAF curve that y'all saw me just rough in really quick, where we did the, you know, 2.3 multiplier, and then we pulled a little bit, and then we pulled a little bit more. That was just me showing you guys how to just a rough one in. I mean, obviously, we did that in a matter of just minutes, and then was able to drive the car with the mass airflow sensor plugged in all the way to the fuel station, which means that we could have drove it all the way to, you know, if I was paying a tuner to like if this was my car and I was paying a tuner, I would have been able to drive to a shop. So this is just a little tips and tricks that I want you guys to understand. A lot of guys, you'll get in such a hurry to get your cars tuned that you'll settle for whoever's tuning it. You won't look into their experience. You won't look into, you know, their reviews. You won't look into any of that. You'll just jump in and get whoever can tune it the fastest, get it done. But if you just have a HPtuners interface, if you watch some of these videos that I'm doing, I'll be able to show you how to get your car to where either you're the one tuning it, or you can drive it to the tuning shop, and you can actually take your time and just breathe. You know, you'll be able to drive the car to work until you can actually get it scheduled on the dyno. All right, so as always, we're under the car. Front tires look good. Don't see any crazy leaks. Oh, there's a little bit of something. It's like power steering fluid or trans fluid, but no big drips under the car, so we should be good. Exhaust looks clear of everything. We have 502 sensor bunks, so that makes it nice. Everything on the car looks good. Fuel system install looks good. Rear tires look good. Put that solo axle back on there. That's super popular in the G8 world. Only other thing I'm seeing is band clamps may have a little bit of exhaust leaks. Nothing crazy, but overall, it's like a nice car. So let's get a wideband in it and get it strapped down. All right, so as always, step number one is going to be put your wideband in. This time I'm just using just a standard 7/8 inch wrench. That's just because the wideband is literally just right here all in my face. So actually, we have opportunity to use this one. So I'm going to use this one. So, strapping down the G8. This thing, the rear suspension setup is essentially like a Camaro, a 5th gen Camaro. I like showing you guys how to tie down the back of a car just because I see so many shops that don't do it correctly. Realistically, I judge a shop immediately. If I see a car on the dyno and I only see 2 straps, you know, one on either side on the back, I instantly judge them. And the reason being is I've seen too many strap failures. A shop is only going to run 2 straps on the back until the day where they need more than that, and they would have wished they would have had 4. So again, I always run 2 front to back, and then I'll do 2 as an X. And the X, what I do is, like I've showed you guys before, is I'll keep the X loose. Like right now the car is going to be crooked on the dyno, so I'll keep the X loose, and then I'll start the car up. I'll disengage the air brake, I'll let the car roll, which the car will self-center, and then I'll tighten up the X and call it good. But too many times have I seen shops improperly strap down these cars, and it's just too dangerous. These are just kind of snugged. And then now we roll it. All right, so now that the car's been straightened up, now I tighten up my X, double check. This one needs maybe another click, and then this one a click. Now I'll go wash my hands and we get in the car. All right, so we are up on the dyno. You'll see now it's 2:26 in the afternoon, so I've been working on this thing for a little bit. I did quite a few transmission shift changes, or just trans tune changes in general. Did some idle changes, still kind of working through that. This car had a couple of quirks as I was driving it that very well could just be due to the mass airflow sensor. So I'm just going to try to get this thing, basically it's like what I've talked about before, is give it what it wants and try to develop a theory later. So I just want this car just to drive nice. So anyways, we're up on the dyno, we're in vehicle simulation mode. The MAF curve has been kind of roughed in. So again, we are in open loop right now, so you'll see this system 1 status is open loop, not ready. So I'm going to go on and get up into, I'm going to do 3rd gear. And again, right now we're on pump gas timing. So it's literally the exact same timing as the car came in on. So I've got air fuel kind of where I want it to be. Still going to do some injection timing stuff, other little things. But anyway, so I'm going to get this thing up to, let's roll with it right here. So I'm going to watch this air fuel ratio, and we're going to do a little partial pull. All right, so it went immediately rich. Not a problem. This car is a fuel system now, and also we're on a new fuel. So I will make this MAF change to the fueling. So obviously right now we're just going to look, and you're going to see I'm 17-18% off up top. So I'm going to input that data in, and then we will do some more pulls. Car started back up, made the changes to the MAF to lean this thing out. Now this car is on a 2-bar operating system, just like what I showed you guys the other day on the SS and the Corvette Grand Sports. I've already built a VE table for this car off camera, so the steady state stuff is done, VE table's done. So I'm basically down to just MAF calibration. Again, I'm not going to do a tune start to finish with you guys watching, but if you subscribe and watch enough videos, you'll learn the whole process for free. So anyways, right now we're cruising through. I'm going to go back through, and we're going to do another little partial pull in 3rd. We are still in vehicle simulation mode. Getting up into 3rd. Manifold air temp looks good. Coolant temp looks good. So we are going to do another rip. All right, so the car spun. Also seeing visible smoke out the back. So not real sure why that is. Hopefully we don't have a leaky heat exchanger because it almost looked more like a whitish kind of smoke. Could be just residual stuff burning out the exhaust. Again, the installer of this intake drove the car here with no MAF plugged in. So there could just be some carbon buildup in there. But anyways, what we're looking at right now, 175 kPa. So remember, go to tools, go to unit conversion, type in 7.5. We're at 10.8 pounds, 15.2 degrees of timing. So that's where it was with the previous pump gas tune. So it looks like we're just a touch lean in some spots, nothing crazy. So I'll make some more changes and I'll be right back with you. All right, car started back up. Add a little bit of fuel up top, got out, checked everything. So far everything looks okay. Like I said, I did see a little bit of visible smoke. I actually made an injection timing change. Could have some short circuiting in the exhaust, which I do see in this with this ECU quite a bit. This is another topic for another day. So this is just stuff that I've learned from my experience. So anyway, so we're gonna go ahead on and do another pull. I am gonna do third gear. I'm gonna roll in a little bit easier. These tires may need to warm up just a little bit. Usually the blower cars, usually the first pulls, you know, maybe second pull, they'll do that. So hopefully it won't spin this time. So I'm gonna roll in and let's do a little rip. All right, still seeing some visible smoke out the back. Everything looks good so far. Again, 10 pounds, oil pressure looks good, cylinder grams look good. Everything looks good on my end, but I do not like that smoke coming out the back. So again, it could just be residual. If it doesn't clear up in the next couple pulls, I may have to call the customer. Only other thing I'm seeing is this timing may be a little bit aggressive for my taste for the pump gas, because again, I'm still in the pump gas timing from the previous tune. So of course on the E85 it's not a huge deal, but yeah, manifold air temp, 131 degrees, 16 degrees of timing seems a little bit, just a touch spicy. So I'm gonna review this data and I'm gonna check everything under the hood and I'll be back. All right, so we're back in the car. Gonna do another little third gear rip. Still can't see anything that would cause that visible smoke. So I know it's not a ridge condition or anything like that. Like I said, it could be residual. It very well could be from that exhaust. But I just, as y'all have probably seen by now, I'm pretty OCD about mechanical conditions and trying to make sure the car is happy and healthy. So anyways, we're gonna do another third gear pull. This time I actually have I have a camera outside facing the exhaust. So I'm gonna turn that on. So let's go and do another little partial pull. All right, so I'm gonna get out and review that camera footage. I'll post it right here. And we'll see if we can't figure out whatever's going on here. I couldn't tell if anything was leaking out of the intercooler brick. The car is not too rich. There's no blow by on the car. So again, right now I'm hoping we're just gonna lead it to residual carbon coming out the exhaust. So anyway, so I'm gonna start up the outside camera. And let's do an actual fourth gear pull. Dyno slowing down. That was 3,000 to I think 6,400 on the pull. So anyways, let's hop out and see if this thing put down. Again, this is pump gas timing, or what was considered to be pump gas timing. So let's check out these numbers. All right, so first dyno pull is complete. 532.8 horsepower, 488 torque. Obviously torque's gonna be low because it still has pump gas timing, where I think when I roll in, it was at like something like 10 degrees or so, and then feeds itself up to 16 as long as the manifold air temp stays good. Again, that was 3,600, made peak power right at that, so it's gonna wanna rev even higher. This does have an RCR cam, so we'll have to figure out, see where it's happy at. Car itself though, not real happy with the amount of smoke coming out the back, honestly. Again, as you guys know, I'm extremely picky about mechanical conditions on cars. There is no blow-by, didn't see any blow-by, but as I look at the back bumper, I mean, you kind of tell where this car has been, she's been a little smoky coming out the back. So it just makes me wonder if something else is going on. I don't see anything that's indicating that the heat exchanger is, or that the intercooler brick is leaking. I'll have to look back through and see if it's a reinforced brick or not. But otherwise, the car seems happy. It's just, yeah, I don't understand why it's a smoky. I mean, that's, you know, I'm running 78 Lambda, which is pretty reasonable for E85, especially. E85, honestly, a lot of guys don't understand this, but the more, as long as the car keeps picking up power, the richer you get it, just give it what it wants. Usually the more E85, the better. So obviously to a certain point. But anyways, I'm going to review the data from that pool, make sure everything else looks good, and we'll do another pool, because again, we're going to try to get this thing to LSFest. So unless I see something that seems catastrophic, we're going to keep running this thing. All right, back in the car, going for dyno pull number 2. So spiced up timing just a little bit more, shaped the curve and the flex fuel modifier more like what an E85 car would be shaped like. So we can hit it a little bit harder in the mid-range, because obviously we have the octane there. So let me get this thing up, and I also increased the dyno to, I think we're gonna roll to 6,600 now in fourth. So now also too, these 6L80 cars, they don't dyno as well. They have a 1.15 to 1 fourth gear instead of it being 1.1. So it's close, but it's not quite 1 to 1. Anyways, everything looks good. I'm gonna start the outside camera and let's let it rip. All right, slowing the car down, stop the log. Car's still just as smoky as ever outside. Let's get out and check these numbers. So the car did pick up power, 560.7, 505 foot-pounds of torque. So again, on a Dynojet, that'd be right around that like 610, 620 range. Still think the car would have a little bit more. That was a 3,000 to 6,600 pull. Fourth gear, and you can see it's still peaking right around that spot. But I mean, honestly, so here's the deal. These engines, they're not cheap. I get it. Some customers, they just want their cars turned all the way up. They want it to make maximum power and then hope for the best. I'm not that guy. So as you saw, we picked up, we picked up like 28 wheel, but on essentially 2 full degrees of timing. And the car had even more visible smoke up top, which is usually a sign of detonation. Well, the thing is, we're not even in detonation territory for ethanol. You pretty much, when it comes to ethanol, you're pretty much going to lose power before you truly detonate the motor. So something's going on. I don't know if we have an imbalance in the injectors. Like I said, if we have a valve stem seal leaking, it's possible that we're getting that heat exchanger fluid, into the engine. There's so many variables here. So what I do know is I know the car is at a safer territory. I think he can go out and enjoy the car. I think the car is going to be okay. Obviously, I can't predict how these cars are going to react, but I feel like he could drive it and the car be okay. But it's not turned up, it's not on kill. The car definitely has more potential. I just don't like it when it looks like that. I've seen stuff like that caused from valve bounce. So it could need a set of valve springs. So this is the part where it starts to get tricky, is because I'm pretty sure he bought this car as it sits. So you got to determine, like, is the previous owner telling you the truth? If he's telling you the truth, then do you just have something weak? I mean, you know, I love Brian Tooley's 660 springs, but I've seen them weak. They've even found weak batches to where they just turn them, you know, instead of calling them a 660 spring, I think they call them like a 630 spring or something. So that's where we're at right now. I'm not happy with it. I don't think the car, I think the car, if it stayed like it is, I think it would die. And honestly, until something catastrophic happened, we may not know what it actually was. So if this was mine, I would check for loose valves or check for weak valve springs. I would do a cylinder leak down test on it. I would pull that blower lid off, and I would double check, make sure we're not getting heat exchanger fluid in it. And if the injectors have been sitting for any amount of time, or if the age is unknown, I'd send them off to Eric Durr for I think he charges $125 and have them flow tested. I would do all that stuff before you destroy this engine that's, you know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. So that's going to be my recommendations to him. So again, the car's at what I would consider to be a pretty safe tune-up, and I'll get this thing out on the street, make sure the car's happy. So we at least have a happy ending where I do believe the car can actually be enjoyed at wide open throttle. Obviously, I don't mind continuing to run it. So where we're at. So let's get this thing unstrapped, get the wideband out, get it back on the street, double check drivability, call him, have him come pick up his car so we can go to LSFest. All right, so we're back in the Pontiac G8. Just pulled it off the dyno on the final test drive right now. So you guys can kind of watch my screen and see what I'm seeing. So far, drivability is excellent with this thing. Trans feels good, drives great. But anyways, after we had our little talk about what the potential issues are with the reason why it's smoking, contacted this owner, and apparently the car's been doing this. So he's got some videos of it going down the drag strip, and it's got the same visible smoke coming out of it. So talk to him a little bit more about the build. Apparently this car was built in 2015, 2016. And which means the valve springs are that old, the valve retainers are that old, everything's that old. So my suggestion to him was, let's pull plugs, or not me, but just somebody, pull plugs on it, check it out, see if we have maybe one random or two random cylinders that look funky. If not, maybe just time to put a set of valve springs in it, a set of valve stem seals, and a set of retainers in it. I've had some titanium retainers where that's a wear item. You know, a lot of guys don't understand this, but titanium retainers are designed for race applications. Your street car is not a race car. So I know you want to have the lightest, you know, valve geometry as possible, but you have to understand that titanium is a wear item. So obviously you're going to lose seat pressure, and you know that titanium is going to go into the engine. Like that's a thing. So I would recommend steel retainers, a good set of new 660 springs, and go from there. Do a cylinder leak down while you're there. I mean, you're already pumping up cylinders anyways, you might as well. So that's where we're at. So I'm driving the car right now. Like I said, the car drives good, shifts good, everything's doing exactly what it needs to do. So overall, I'm happy with the car. Customer asked if he is okay to run at LSFest, and I explained this to him. I said, you know, you've been running it before. Chances are pretty good that the car is going to be fine. Tune up safe, everything's happy. There's a good chance the car will live. I just don't want him to continue to drive it like that. Hopefully he fixes this thing, because I explained to him, you know, obviously this is an expensive engine. So I'm going to finish up this test drive and get back to the shop, and we'll go from there. All right guys, so that's going to wrap it up for the day. Wraps up the G8. The customer's going to come pick it up. Hopefully he has a good time. Hopefully everything holds up for him to have a good time at LSFest, and then still be able to get it back to a shop to have them check out whatever it is that's going on with the thing. Again, when it comes to the tuning like this is my life. I'd say we're probably at a 40 to 50% of a number of vehicles that can actually be successfully tuned, no mechanical issues, and they leave. The other ones, they just have stuff like this. So it's not a big deal. I mean, almost everybody's vehicles really has a mechanical issue. I'm just upfront and honest about it because a lot of tuners don't have, realistically, the experience to be able to diagnose this stuff. So then they'll just bake in all the error into the tuning. And then once they do that, then if they fix the problem, then the tuning's off, and that's why people think their tune's expired. So, all right, so anyways, that wraps up the day. Like I said, this is Thursday before LSFest, so I'm gonna go to the track tomorrow and have a good time. I may do some filming, but anyways, thanks for the likes, the comments, the subscriptions, and I'll talk to you guys later.